Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. Alright everyone, welcome to episode 90 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
To get us started, here are this week's top news highlights.
Japan condemns Russian attack on Ukraine as shaking international order.
720 billion yen from Japan's goto travel budget likely to go unused amid COVID surge.
Over 1.7 million Hondas probed for unexpected automatic braking in the United States.
This week in Japan. Alright, so our first story. Japan condemns Russian attack on Ukraine as shaking international order.
Kyodo News has reported that on February 24th, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida strongly condemned Russia's attack on Ukraine, saying that the act undermines the foundation of international order.
Kishida said Japan will work closely with the United States and other nations after Russia launched what Ukraine called a full-scale invasion, following Moscow's announcement it would carry out a special military operation in eastern Ukraine known as the Donbas, where two pro-Russian separatist regions are located.
Kishida told reporters, quote, "The Russian attack shakes the foundation of international order that never tolerates unilateral change to the status quo by force, and we strongly condemn Russia."
Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi summoned Russian ambassador to Japan, Mikhail Galuzin, to lodge a protest, calling on Russia to stop invading Ukraine immediately and withdraw troops.
I have a strange suspicion that they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Hayashi told Galuzin at the beginning of their meeting, which was open to the media, quote, "We will never tolerate unilateral change to the status quo by force, and we strongly condemn this invasion." Tensions over Ukraine have heightened after Russian President Vladimir Putin formally recognized the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of Ukraine as independent and ordered the deployment of troops to maintain peace there, despite global calls for Russia not to take military action against Ukraine.
Kishida early told reporters that securing the safety of Japanese nationals in Ukraine is a very important issue, and the government will take necessary steps.
According to the Japanese government, there are about 120 Japanese nationals in Ukraine.
Yeah, so, this is breaking news worldwide, and kind of the surprising, not surprising thing for me has been the response from not just NATO countries, but also from China. China also sees this as an invasion and, called for some form of stability soon. You've got pretty much every country on the planet against these current actions by Russia, which is reminiscent of another country doing certain things in the 1900s.
Wonder what country that was. And up next, 720 billion yen from Japan's goto travel budget likely to go unused amid COVID surge.
The Mainichi has reported that a budget of 720 billion yen, that's about 6.3 billion US dollars, set aside for Japanese government's goto travel domestic tourism subsidy campaign is increasingly likely to be returned to state coffers, as surging coronavirus infections in Japan have made the prospect of resuming the program uncertain.
The massive funding, part of the about 1.4 trillion yen, which is about 12 billion US budget, allocated in the first supplementary budget and reserve funds for fiscal 2020, have been left unused since the goto travel initiative was suspended in December 2020. As the Public Finance Act allows budget funds to be carried over only to the following fiscal year, the 720 billion yen must be returned to public coffers after the deadline on March 10 of this year.
Parker, what are public coffers? The investors?
The taxpayer money, basically.
Ah, okay. So it returns to the pot.
Yeah, return to the pot so they can spend it on something else.
Gotcha.
Like old people.
Or missiles to fight China. While the government has secured another 830 billion yen, or $7.2 billion, budget to continue tourism campaign even after refunding the 720 billion yen, there are no prospects for the program to be restarted anytime soon.
Before the coronavirus's Omicron variant spread across Japan, the government had planned to use up to roughly 460 billion yen, or 4 billion US, of the 720 billion yen in funds by March 10, on the assumption of restarting the goto campaign at the end of January 2022.
However, after surging COVID-19 infections made it uncertain if the program could be resumed within fiscal 2021 ending March, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism consulted with the Ministry of Finance over whether the 720 billion yen in funding could be carried forward once more to fiscal 2022 under an exceptional measure. However, the Finance Ministry rejected the plan, on the grounds that it would run counter to the effect of the Public Finance Act.
That sounds like a conversation I have with my accountant.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Accountant, can I do that? Nope. In a desperate measure, the Tourism Ministry has switched the operator of the Go To Travel program from the central government to prefectural governments for a 560 billion yen, or 4.9 billion US, portion of the fiscal 2020 third supplementary budget that cannot technically be carried over to fiscal 2022. By distributing the 560 billion yen to prefectural governments within fiscal 2021, the funds can in effect be rolled over to the following fiscal year.
Apart from this, roughly 270 billion yen, that's $2.3 billion, in funds in the fiscal 2021 supplementary budget will also be brought forward to fiscal 2022 to prepare for the resumption of the Go To Travel program moving forward. So they're going to move most of this money into the prefectural governments then?
Yeah, I wonder how the actual operation will be affected, whether they'll actually have to have local Go To Travel campaigns and the control of the funds will be separated, or they just, put it on a different balance sheet and everything's going to be done the same way it was done previously.
We've had the Cool Japan ambassador on the show before. The Cool Japan website, I think, hasn't been updated for a couple years. I mean, this is a lot of money we're talking here. Potentially, they could do lots of really cool stuff. I'm even thinking of why don't they have like an official app to promote tourism? Like, what is their outreach like to get like social media influencers traveling around Japan?
Yeah, and obviously the Go To Travel campaign, probably the gift and the curse of it is its simplicity. In its original iteration, and of course it could change, it was basically like the government pays for half of your hotel. Which, did you use Go To Travel?
I did. I went to Fukuoka in 2020 in October, and I stayed at a 5-star hotel for less than Ichimanen. I think I paid like Nanasen for 3 nights.
I did something similar, but because it's like a 50% discount, what ended up happening is there were winners and losers, and obviously the winners were expensive hotels and resorts where
right.
people could stay where it would usually cost $1,000 for only like $500. So it's like, discount. Yeah, let's go to the Ritz-Carlton. Champagne, baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
God bless you, Uncle Taro. I'll think about you when I'm getting lit. But obviously the losers were smaller ryokans, less expensive establishments because, you can't get as big of a deal. And so I wonder how they're going to change the Go To Travel campaign to try and mitigate this problem and try and support these smaller establishments. Maybe if the local governments actually have some say in the matter, they might actually do a better job.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a better decision to put it in the hands of the local governments, or maybe it will just sit there and do nothing.
And up next, over 1.7 million Hondas probed for unexpected automatic braking in the United States.
The Mainichi has reported that U.S. auto safety regulators are investigating complaints that the automatic emergency braking systems on more than 1.7 million new Hondas can stop the vehicles for no reason.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that it has 278 complaints that the problem can happen in 2017 through 2019 CRV SUVs and 2018 and 2019 Accord sedans. The agency announced the probe in documents posted on its website on February 24th.
In some cases, the owners complained of unexpected speed reductions that could cause increased vulnerability to rear collisions. Agency documents say the inadvertent braking can occur without warning and randomly.
In 6 cases, owners told the U.S. government agency the problem caused collisions with minor injuries.
The agency says it's opening the probe to determine how many vehicles are affected and how bad the problem is. The investigation could lead to a recall.
In a statement, Honda said it's cooperating with the investigation and is continuing its own review. The company said consumers who experience any problems should contact their dealership. Sounds like something I would write.
Among those complaining was a Honda owner in Fredericksburg, Virginia, who told the agency a 2018 CRV came to a complete stop in November 2019. While driving on the interstate with no vehicles or obstacles stopped in front of me, my car automatically braked hard, the owner wrote. It came to a complete stop on the interstate, which resulted in me getting rear-ended and really pissed off.
The owner, who was not identified in the complaint and whose name was definitely not Billy Bob, reported that 2 people were injured in the accident.
So the Honda probe is the second investigation of automated braking systems opened by the regulator in the past week. On February 17th, the agency began investigating reports of similar malfunctions on about 416,000 Teslas after it received 345 complaints that the vehicles could stop for no reason.
Tesla vehicles are equipped with partially automated driver assist features such as adaptive cruise control, and some models have autopilot, which allows them to automatically brake and steer within their lanes. But only while you're smoking a doobie.
So Parker, I gotta put on my tinfoil hat right now and think, do all these cars have like a back door? And is this like exposing a system that allows like maybe governments to just stop the vehicles in case it's a criminal or something, you know? Like, why does it even have that feature in it?
That is a shiny tinfoil hat you've got on. It's to prevent an accident. So basically there's sensors in the vehicle that will sense an obstacle, like for instance, if a small child runs out in front of an intersection, the car is supposed to sense the child with its sensors and stop immediately so that you don't kill them.
Gotcha.
However, with any technology, there are these things called bugs.
Yeah.
Ever had a blue screen of death? Well, now it can happen to your car.
Jeez. I wonder if it can lock you inside the car too.
There's some scary shit happening. Honestly, as the resident technology hater here on Tokyo Wave, I hate these connected cars.
Oh no, me
I like
too.
Dumb cars. You know, anything 1980s or earlier. None of this electronic this and assisted that. It's all a bunch of malarkey.
Dude, they've got way too many microchips in these cars. It's ridiculous. I mean, that contributed to the chip shortage, making cars not available. It's also way too complex. It's overly complicating everything.
Well, it's like they make dumb phones for people who don't like smartphones. Why don't they make dumb cars for people who don't like these smart cars?
Right. Well, the thing is we get a government stipend if we sell these new smart cars. It's confidential. They won't tell us why, but I think it's got something to do with the car can stop you and lock you inside. And there's also a self-destruct that I read somewhere about. Our mechanical engineer told me, but I don't know. I don't think I'm supposed to talk about that.
Hey there, Joe. How would you like a big fat roll of Hundies? We didn't have this conversation, right? Capiche?
All right, and up next on Yinny and a Bill, y'all, we're going to be talking about how to take a business trip to Japan.
You're now listening to Tokyo Wave.
All right, folks, want to go on a business trip to Japan? Here's how to do it. It is now possible, but there is some paperwork. And I will preface this by saying that I'm not talking about a business trip in the facetious sense, but in the actual sense. So if you are a tourist looking to go on a business trip for business purposes, you're out of luck.
Yeah, so. I got some business at some hotels in Kabukicho, Yeah, I'm going to be busy all night for like 7 days. Yeah, that's where I'll be.
So it is quite complex. And honestly, we advise considering to hire an external consultant, which in this case would be an administrative scrivener, to help expedite with paperwork creation.
Note on that, if you don't know what an administrative scrivener is, you should probably really think about doing this or not doing this. I don't know if I should.
Word.
So roughly the order of the application is as such.
So first and foremost, the company in Japan, which is the sponsor in this situation, needs to sign up for an account on the government's ERFS system. Each company must make its own account, and it takes about 2 to 3 days to process an application. Personally, I would go ahead and get someone on this so that you have it when you need it, because you can create the account and not immediately apply for a business visa, but you have to have the account in order to apply.
So up next is to secure airline tickets and accommodation reservations, which must be submitted as part of this application.
And this is a bit of a chicken and egg problem because you have to secure your flight tickets and accommodation reservations because you have to put it on the form, but the authorities might tell you that you can't go on that day. So there has to be a bit of flexibility on behalf of the people trying to come over, or there is a chance that it just won't work out.
Right. Sounds like some haggling maybe at the airport.
No, it's not even at the airport. It's haggling at the consulate or embassy, but we'll get into that later.
Ooh. So up next, the company in Japan needs to use the company's ERFS account to apply online for entry. This is where the flight info and accommodation info must be input. This takes about an hour to figure it out and obtain the document needed.
You can do it even faster if you're like me and you're doing it at 1:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, if you're good at computers, you could probably figure it out in about an hour. If you're not good at computers, you should probably give this task to someone who is good at computers. It's kind of complicated. Then, after that process has been completed, or of course in unison with that process, the company in Japan also needs to prepare other application documents for a short-term business visa, which include
a letter of invitation, a list of applicants, a planned daily travel schedule, a letter of personal guarantee that the applicant will pay for the accommodation, repatriation expenses, and follow the laws of Japan, and finally, a information sheet on the company or organization.
Once all of the above is complete and in hand, the person who wants to apply for a visa can apply at their local Japan embassy or consulate. However, you need to secure an appointment by phone. And in some cases, you can submit the documents by post, but given the high application volume, unless you're really far away from an embassy or consulate, the best practice is probably to try and go in person.
And this is really difficult for places like where I'm from, Florida, where our Japanese embassy is in Miami. And I've even looked at the appointment schedule, and it's like impossible to get an appointment. You have to wait like 2 or 3 months.
So after successful submission at a local embassy or consulate, processing takes about 5 business days. under normal circumstances, but with the 400,000 people waiting to get inside Japan right now, might take a little bit longer.
Yeah. So depending on the volume of other applications, they might not approve your planned travel date. So it is important to act quickly if a trip in the near term is desired.
You know, all things considered, I think it would be reasonable to plan such business trips taking place from June onward. And earlier might be possible, but it would be up to the daily entry cap, which is currently 5,000 arrivals per day, and also the speed of the local embassy or consulate in the home country of the applicant.
So we know this sounds quite complex, but we're telling you it's 100 times easier than the system originally implemented in November.
Just a brief flashback to November. If you've listened to that episode of the podcast a few months ago, I explained the process, which involves creating 4 very complicated documents and very detailed plans and stool samples and all of the above. And then you actually had to submit that to a ministry that your company is assigned to based on the business that your company is in. So if your company does anything complicated like consulting, there was actually a brief period where the ministries would like play football with each other. Like, no, it's not that ministry, it's that ministry. And then with even within the ministry is like, no, it's this division. No, it's that division. Oh, you got to go to that office.
Right.
And I played a lot of phone tag back in November. That kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So all of that, paperwork and getting that sort of certificate that you needed to pair with your visa application and the other visa application stuff, while complicated, is not new. The new part is this ERFS system. This ERFS system, other than the pain in the butt of having to create this account and then do the application, it takes like an hour.
Oh,
and
wow.
Once you submit the application, you get your approval document that you need to submit at your local embassy or consulate in like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So what used to take probably 2 business days if you're a pro now takes an hour and a half if you're a pro.
That's pretty nice. I mean, I remember us talking about the agency thing, and that just sounded like a nightmare because, most new companies as well, like SaaS companies, I mean, they have multiple classifications and they can't really be labeled by, Japan's kind of antiquated way of classifying things, right?
So, Mr. Acme Corporation, what is your business? We need to know which ministry to forward you to.
We specialize in the metaverse.
We're a cloud computing company, and we specialize in cybersecurity and cloud computing. So whenever people store things on the cloud, we make sure that it's secure and safe. And we do this a serverless operation using mobile device technology. I'm just imagining, like any new company trying to like go through that would just be, as you said, tossed around like a football from agency to agency.
It was not fun. And so for work, I have to talk to government agencies, so it wasn't news for me. But for someone who is not used to Japan's very complex administrative system, I'm sure some frustrated people were not having a very good time.
So one important note, this explanation does not apply to those who are citizens of China, Russia, Georgia, the Philippines, Vietnam, or CIS countries, which include Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. If you're a national of one of those countries, there are additional procedures.
And of course, all of this information is available on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But this is for business travelers.
Right.
What about students? So what about those students? So what happens is the university now needs to apply for this ERFS system and apply on behalf of their students, which sounds easy enough, but you remember going to college in Japan and those university administrators?
Oh, yeah.
How easy do you think it will be for them to figure out this new system?
I had a pretty good administrator who went to the immigration office for me as a proxy. We talked about this. You can't do that anymore. This guy would actually go as a proxy for all the Chinese, Korean, American students. I mean, God bless this man.
What a dude. Yeah, I had a very different experience. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it depends on the university. I think some universities are going to have administrators who are on this like stink on shit and they're going to get into the country quickly. But I'm sure there are going to be other universities who, basically bottom of the totem pole guy gets this crappy job that nobody wants and he's not going to be able to figure it out quickly. And it's going to take a while, and it's sad because the students can't do anything. The host organization has to do all of this paperwork.
Right.
And so how fast you can get into Japan hinges on how fast your host institution does this stuff.
Yes. You're bringing up something I saw recently. Even after what we talked about, I think 2 weeks ago, when they announced that they would allow foreign students back in, a lot of institutions in America that have Japanese study abroad programs are still not allowing the American students to come to Japan because they don't believe that it's going to work, right? They've got their, they're looking at everything that's happened over the past 2 years and like, this is really turbulent, like at any moment this could change. And also, like you said, the whole paperwork process, they're responsible for it. So on Twitter, I've seen people posting responses from their academic advisor or whatever in America saying that we don't believe at this time you can go to Japan.
But as of March the 1st, those people are wrong. So if somebody tells you that you can't come to Japan right now as an exchange student, they're lying. Because you can. But it is pretty hard.
Try to find a different path, I'd say.
Well, you can always take a leave of absence from your school, and especially if you go to an expensive school like, Harvard or Yale or one of those other schools that Masters of the Universe attend that cost like $100,000 a year these days.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an exchange student going to a local school here in Japan, the tuition here is like, 10 to 20 grand.
Oh, man.
So they're paying U.S. tuition to attend Japanese university. And it's like, whoa, that sucks for you.
This could be a whole podcast episode. When I first came to Japan and I was looking at actually enrolling as a full-time undergrad or grad student, the price was about $5,000 to $6,000 a year. I mean, holy crap. Even compared to national universities in the U.S., like the one I went to in Florida, I mean, I think that the Florida one was like, 6-7 times that price, right? It's like you said, it's like WTF.
Quite a noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the entry procedures to get into Japan as a non-tourist are now more clear, they're easier, they're still quite difficult and bureaucratic to overcome, but it's a lot more manageable than it used to be. So for non-tourism travel, it looks like the doors are back open. And of course, the daily entry cap is the caveat there, but I hope we'll see that relaxed in the near future.
Absolutely.
But what about tourists?
That's the big thing everyone's waiting for, right? That announcement.
And at this time, we really don't know when that's going to be. It could be as soon as, I don't know, autumn?
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I really thought it was going to happen in April.
Nope.
I have two friends that work for basically the two largest travel agencies in Japan. And long story short, these agencies are not in any way bringing back their workers to prepare for an onslaught of, increased tourism in the near term, at least until the end of May. So I think, a big indicator that they're going to let tourists back in is travel agencies, airlines. We're going to see massive promotions starting everywhere. So we'll kind of know about a month before. But right now, there were some recent announcements at some of these companies, and they're not moving on anything right now. So it's going to be summer, autumn,
I
unfortunately.
saw similar announcements, and so yeah, summer would be great, but honestly unlikely. Tokyo in August is pretty terrible anyway.
They probably want to wait until the next quote unquote wave hits again too to see how bad it is.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, what is going to happen with this pandemic? I mean, a lot of countries are declaring the end of the pandemic, like the one that we're from.
Yeah.
Even though it's not over. But yeah, it's kind of tough to tell at this point. I mean, I hope we see tourism resume by the end of this calendar year, but all we can do is cross our fingers. And if you're a tourist trying to come to Japan, all that you can do is listen to Tokyo Wave every week because we'll keep you posted.
And thank you for listening to us every week.
Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.